for this step, you are starting to develop a word mark. And what could a word mark look like? Font selection is super important, as oftentimes the font you choose will also communicate just as much as a symbol. So choosing the right font and the right combinations of font is really important. What you're going to do is, once you have finalized your logo, you've made all the changes to it that you want, you need to look at a couple different layouts. One option is to have the logo next to or to the left of your word mark. Another option is to have the logo on top of your word mark, which actually this is fits more in a square versus this long rectangle. And so the square often works better to have your logo and word mark stacked that way. And then the last way would be to have the logo incorporated into a logo. So for example, we have lifestyle on this side, landscape on the other, which gets to be really long. Or maybe your font wraps around your logo. I'll show you what I mean by that. Take my T tool, type on a path, type on this path. So maybe we've got the text kind of incorporating into the logo or the symbol. And then I want to show you real quick how you get I just copied and pasted that. Take my white arrow and I can click this little line. I can move it along that line if I need to center it or something. But if I take the one over here and I pull it in, it goes to the inside of the circle. If I scale it, it scales the whole thing. So you really do need to have the path all set up the way you want it to be. Okay, so that's 3 different layouts that are pretty common. Very rarely do you see sometimes you'll see the icon on this side of the word mark if it tends to fit with the lettering. All right, so let's take a look at leading and kerning. You go to Window, Type, Character. This is the character palette, and this is the palette that's going to have all of the leading and kerning settings. Okay, so I want you to try a variety of fonts. So you can see here I've got a sans serif font with a script. Here I've got a serif font in lowercase, and I've got with it uppercase really thin. Down here I've got a script lifestyle and a sans serif underneath. I'd like you to refer to the 10 Commandments of Typography, which we talked about in class. Let me just show you what that looks like again. It's available on Canvas. It's in our slideshows, but it's also in Google. So if you take a look at some of these commandments, they are good rules to kind of live by when you're choosing what fonts go together well. What you want to keep in mind is that you want enough contrast between the 2 fonts. If you don't have enough contrast and they look too similar, they're not going to look right together. So you want two very different looking fonts, but not too different in the sense that they're different, mixing different moods. Because, like this one, for example, don't mix different moods. These don't feel like they go together well. However, you can do a sans serif with a serif and vice versa. All right, so let's come back to working with text. So I've got it kind of typed in different ways, and I'm going to play around with different fonts here. So let's say I want to go with that, and then landscape. I want to complement it, probably not with another or different serif font because that would be too similar. But let's say I want to reduce the kerning on this. This one's the leading here, and this one's the kerning. So leading is the space between lines. So if I had these two on the same line, so I'll just do that here, cut this out, and I come up here and I hit enter and paste. These are now in the same text grouping, whereas this is two separate text groupings. Okay, so if these are in the same text grouping, I can adjust the the leading here with this setting. Okay, you want them to be fairly close together so they feel like a grouping. I'm probably also going to center these, so I'm going to pull up my type paragraph. I'm going to center it. Okay. So let's say I want to reduce the spacing between these letters. I'm going to adjust the kerning. I'm just going to go ahead and type in 100, bring those together. So that's kerning and leading. And oftentimes that second word, so the name of the company is more emphasized, maybe in a unique font, maybe it's bolder, maybe it's all caps. And then the second word is maybe smaller. Even though this is capped in all caps, it is much smaller in size, and it's much lighter in the font style. So it feels smaller and less important. And oftentimes you want to do that in a logo where you use two different fonts that complement one another. You don't have to use two fonts, but oftentimes it looks much better. You never want to use more than 3 fonts in a word mark. Okay, so that's how you work with your letting, thinking about what types of fonts you're putting together.